we did the whole going to visit the campuses, and I was blown away. I was just like, there's Starbucks, there's state of the art gym, and you could live right here. And so I got caught up in that. Luckily, his father was also involved in the process and was like, no, that it's gonna be too expensive. Like that's all hype. And I don't think that that's hype for everybody. I think that there's, those benefits of living on campus. You feel like secure, there's security, you're there, you're able just to walk to class for some
Hmm.
students. So I think it's a good experience for some families, but I also want people to know that there are alternatives like commuting.
Ever felt those awkward vibes when religion and money come up? You're not alone. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, the podcast where we tackle the crossroads of faith and finance. I'm Shay Cook, an accredited financial counselor and the CEO and founder of Crusaders for Change, LLC. Join us on our journey as we discuss topics like tithing, saving, and conquering debt through religious perspectives. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Yahweh's Money. This is Shay, your host. And before I introduce our special guest, I want to first thank our regular and new listeners. And second, I want to share some news about us leveling up this podcast. Today's episode will introduce our new run of show format, which will allow us to be more conversational and authentic. Plus, we have a new podcast producer, the award-winning Crackers and Soup. Plus, new graphics are coming soon. So thanks to God and our special guest hosts for their inspiration to level up Yahweh's Money. And before I introduce our amazing guests, I wanted to provide a quick description of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the real cost of college beyond tuition. When most people think about the cost of college, they're immediately thinking of tuition and student loans. And yes, they are expensive. But according to savingforcollege.com, the average 2024 to 2025 college tuition and fees for in-state students at public universities are approximately $11,260 to $29,000 for out-of-state students. So I know my daughter paid more of that for in-state. But let's take a step back and think about the real cost of college. We're talking about the hidden expenses that pile up over time, things like dorm furniture, textbooks, parking permits, and the countless fees we don't take into account in our financial aid package. In today's episode, we're helping you think outside the box when it comes to college expenses and what the higher education really costs for you. So in Proverbs 27:23, it tells us, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. This verse encourages careful planning and attention, which is exactly what you'll be doing by bringing awareness or those unconsidered college expenses. So I'm so excited to introduce our guest host. She's just been pivotal in this podcast. She's amazing. She's sweet, kind. She's God-fearing. She's a child of God, mother, wife, military veteran, military spouse, Fenner Foundation fellow, and an accredited financial counselor, former Yahweh's Money podcast producer. Again, our inspiration for our podcast. And now, Crusaders for Change lead financial counselor, Adriana Lopez. Hey, Adriana. Hey, friend.
Hi, friend. Hi, Shay. Thank you for that sweet introduction. And
Yes,
thank you to
ma'am.
God. I mean, I'm just blessed to be part of this, amazing journey. And so thank you for having me on. I really appreciate you and all your mentorship. So I'm really
Oh,
glad to be part of this. It's a blessing.
no, I'm so excited. I've been wanting you on this podcast for 2 years now, 3 seasons. so, but you have been pivotal and such. Finally, we got you out in the front end because you were in the back end. So tell us a little bit more about who Adriana is.
Well, like you said, Army veteran who I'm
Wow.
immigrant too. That's a big part of my identity. I was originally born from Colombia, so I am just really excited about all the opportunities that I've been blessed with living in this country, being able to be part of the military, having two amazing kids. My husband also just retiring. So we're in
Yay.
this new chapter of our lives here in Florida, just working with Crusaders for Change. Being in this sector, financial counseling for me was a pivot in my career because I was mostly doing logistics with the federal government. And so this opportunity came up to be awarded and blessed with the FINRA Military Spouse Fellowship. I was like, I really like finances. I know a little bit. And when I did the fellowship, I said, I don't know anything. And it's been a great journey ever since. I've learned so much. I've been able to take those gifts and those talents and help others. So I am forever grateful for that opportunity because it is truly life changing. So just glad to be part of this.
It really is. And a shout out to Fenner Foundation for all they do. They're amazing. I found out about the fellowship back in 2006, 7. And man, has it been a game changer for my professional life as well. So let's talk about how we know each other. So, how did you find Crusaders for Change or Shay Cook?
Well, I remember that AFCPE.
Yeah,
Yeah, which are, the ones that give us the AFC designation. They had a career fair. And so they
that's
had
right.
posted it on social media. I'd seen it and I was like, oh, I'm going to, attend this fair. And you were one of the hosts there. So I remember going into your room because this was all virtual. This was still, during the
Yeah.
COVID era. And so I was like, okay, I really liked the conversation. I was really interested in wanting to volunteer and work on my experience hours. I didn't know you. I applied. I remember turning in my resume to you and hearing back from you, and you told me, yeah, I want you to be part of the team and help us in some areas. So I was just really glad because then I got to know you better, got to know the mission of Crusaders for Change, which I was just so impressed by everything that you've done, where you brought your organization to. So I was just like really glad that you took me on.
Yeah, and I think we met a little before that when you were going through the actual course for through Fenrir Foundation, the orientation with Sherry Stevie.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I remember you being on there. Weren't you on the virtual, the
in the
first
yeah,
and
yeah,
orientation? Yeah, so I remember meeting you there and us maybe meeting offline after that. But yeah, and you were in Italy then, so
yep.
which is
I was
really
in
cool.
Italy. Yep.
So, well, welcome back to United States, crazy America. So, guys, in our new running show, our new process here, or format, I should say, we're going to start asking like rapid fire questions, and then we'll go into the main topics and each tips about the topic of the day, which is the real cost of college. But let's do some quick rapid fire questions before we move into our main talking point. What was your last purchase that you were most excited about?
Oh, I sent you a picture of it.
Oh, you did?
It was the Eagles Super Bowl
That's
memorabilia.
right. Yeah, that was so nice.
I love giving that to my husband for Valentine's Day and our anniversary because they, go both hand in hand. So I also bought one for my best friend because
Oh,
she's a
nice.
huge Eagles fan. So
Oh,
it's a
wow.
Super Bowl ticket, a big replica of it with all the players' signatures. So I was really excited. I haven't given her hers yet. Her birthday was last week, but
Oh,
soon.
okay.
Mhm.
She's gonna be super
Yeah,
excited,
she
and
doesn't even know. So
congratulations.
hopefully this episode doesn't air before
Oh, no, I don't think
her.
well, she does. Happy birthday. You're gonna get an amazing gift, and congratulations to the Eagles for
Go
winning the Super
birds!
Bowl. That was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah, for me, the last purchase I was most excited about was Beyonce tickets. Ah!
Oh, that's so
My
exciting.
sister, me, and my niece sat online for 2 hours to get those dang on Cowboy Carter tickets, and we're huge Beyonce fans. I don't know why I'm not ready to say I'm part of the Beehive. My husband's like, "You are part of the Beehive." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm always want to be different." But I'm super excited about that because Beyonce is one of the best entertainers of all time.
Yes,
So
she did.
she is amazing. And I mean, them tickets were high. We're not gonna talk about that, talk about it in another episode because I felt a little bit of shame and embarrassment how much I paid. But hey, I don't do a lot. I justify it by I don't do a lot. So hey, I'm gonna spend on Beyonce. And we're sitting on the field. So like
What? Wow, and all 3 of you are going.
all three. My daughter, she said when she went last year and she was like, it was too much. So she wants to go see Kendrick instead. I was like, all right, we go see Kendrick and SZA. But yeah, I'm excited about that. So all right, next question. What is your favorite way to save?
My favorite way is automate. Automate all day,
Mm,
every day, set it and forget it. That has been,
yes.
for us, instrumental to be able to save, our emergency fund, our goal funds. What about you?
Same here. Automate all day. And then if I have an extra little bit after I do my bills, I'm putting that money over. Some that surplus is going into another savings. So and another savings and another savings. So yeah, I love using like the club accounts too to separate because I like to have like specific measurable smart goals. Like, all right, I'm gonna save this amount for Christmas for my nieces and nephews, my daughter, my husband, and so forth. or I'm saving for a new car, or I'm saving for the insurance that I want to pay off this year, whatever it may be. I love to do the club accounts too, so automating club. So
Yeah, and I love to have the names of each savings there, so
yes,
when I log into my bank, I edit the name, and it just my incentive every time I see, "Oh, the vacation fund, is getting there." I
same,
can't
same. I
wait
have the
for the next
vacation
trip.
fund. I got the holiday, Christmas holiday fund. Let me tell you a story. When I had when may he rest in peace, Titan, my dog, bulldog that died 2 years ago, going on three. Before we got him, we named it Titan Savings. Like literally, we had a Titan Savings 2 years before we even had Titan. So, because we knew as an English bulldog, they can be expensive. So we
One,
started
two.
saving for him. Yeah, I know you got many.
Uh-huh.
So being able, and then I kept Titan savings till he died because of all the other emergencies and all of the medical expenses. So that was always his savings. So may he rest in peace, my baby. All right, last question. What feeling do you associate with money?
Security.
Mm,
For sure, I just had a dental emergency that you know
yeah,
about. If I didn't have the money to cover that unexpected expense, I wouldn't be able to have taken care of it. And so for me, that security that I know, hey, this happened. I've got the money sitting there for us for this type of stuff. So let's go for it. I didn't want to
amen.
go ahead with the procedure, but I needed it. So I'm glad that I had the money there. So security for me is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. For me, I would say freedom is a
Mm,
feeling. Security goes along with freedom, but sometimes there is shame. There's still
mm.
like I was thinking about that with the Beyonce tickets, or when I went to this event this week and all these women were walking around with all these clothes on, great clothes. And I'm like, right now, for many reasons, I'm not buying a lot of clothes. First of all, because I have a closet full of nice clothes and I need to just lose some more weight. But also, it's just like, I don't want to be spending all my money on that. But then I have this shame about I should be looking a certain way. I battle with this, and I'm sure it's from childhood, and I probably need to talk about it in therapy. But there is still shame around money with me, and hey, I'm real, and I'm a financial counselor, almost shoot over almost 15 plus years, and yeah, it's still there's shame there, but the freedom is nice too, knowing that I have savings in case something comes up, so that security piece too. Yeah, well, thank you for that. I love that rapid fire. That's gonna be fun. Yeah. So let's get in talking about the real cost of college beyond tuition. A lot of people focus on the tuition pieces or piece of college, which can be really expensive in America. And honestly, shame on America for having tuition that's so high. But there's things like the dorm versus off campus living or other academic costs. So let's get into that. I know you have a son that was recently in college. You've been in college. I've been to college. My kid was in college.
I never lived on campus. My
Oh,
son
okay.
didn't live on campus, so I don't have that experience, but he commutes, and just that
Mm,
saving alone could be about $14,000 for a family a year.
wow.
So I want my son to know that I'm saving him 14,000 a year by him living with us. So eventually, you don't want to see that money back. And no, the return is going to be, of course, in his education. But I did the community college thing, and then I went to a 4-year school, but I commuted as well. It didn't even fathom to ever live on a campus for me. I never thought that could be a possibility because I would hear that people say that it was expensive. And for my son, I did want that experience because I was like, we did the whole going to visit the campuses, and I was blown away. I was just like, "There's Starbucks, there's this state-of-the-art gym, and, you could live right here," and so I got caught up in that. Luckily, his father was also involved in the process and was like, "No, that it's gonna be too expensive, like, that's all hype," and I don't think that that's hype for everybody. I think that there's, those benefits of living on campus. You feel like secure, there's security, you're there, you're able just to walk to class for some
Hmm.
students. So I think it's a good experience for some families, but I also want people to know that there are alternatives like commuting, like perhaps living in a residence off campus,
Off
and
campus,
sharing
yeah.
with roommates. I know that, your daughter Alana, she lived on campus,
The
right?
whole 4 years, yeah, and I lived on campus 2 years, and for me, it was back in '97. God, I'm old. It was because I needed to get the HE you know what out of my parents' house. I was like, "I am not living here with y'all, you know what."
That's
man.
why I went to the
So
army.
that exactly, right? It was independence. It was like, I'm getting out of here. And even though it was, so I went to UMBC, which is like 20, 30 minutes from my parents' house. So literally I should have lived at home, but I still had two siblings at home and it was just so much drama. And I was like, I don't want to live here. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to UMBC and I'm going to live on campus. And man, yes, I wish somebody had talked to me about that because it was so expensive. And actually I moved home my middle sophomore year because my roommate was all about doing certain things with her boyfriend while I was there, and I
Oh,
was like,
no.
yeah, it was crazy. And so I was like, even my mom went up there and went off on her and stuff. I'm like, man, hopefully she's not listening. Girl, I still love you. And so I had to leave. But I realized I was saving so much money back because I moved back home, but then I
Mhm.
got married that summer or that summer. And so I was saving so much because living on campus was an extra like 10, 15,000 a year. And I did the student loan route. So when I got out of UMBC, I had like 30,000 in student loans. Back then, tuition wasn't expensive. It was only like 5,000 a semester, which I mean, still a lot of money, but it wasn't as much as what my daughter was paying. So it was really expensive. But the experience I had living outside, I mean, because I got married young, I was 20 when I got married. So I think God was planning something because he knew I needed to get out of my parents' house and experience living away from my parents before I got married because then I've been married 25 years. So I would have never really experienced living outside of with nobody, right? I always had a roommate though, but so it was great. But yeah, living off campus is the way to go if you have a good home situation, because I have to add that in there because not everybody wants to be at home. And you can't afford it. Like, let's be real, the affordability of it all. Not everybody's capable to afford the exuberant cost of living on campus. It's so expensive.
Yeah, and I think, roommates too, like talking with your, friends, if you're going to the same school, that's an option too, for you to discuss. If you know that you're not going to be able to live on campus, but you want to live off campus where you could save a lot more, you're not going to be living at home or you're going out of state. So just looking into roommates and also if you don't have friends going there, but looking at some of at postings for roommates for your college campus. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of information. So that'll be a good option to share the rent, with four roommates. Of course, people you can trust and, are going to be,
Yeah.
I mean, you're always going to run into things, but at least having still that experience, like you said, that independence, which I think that's such a great thing because that's one of the things that I kind of would like. I wish my son would have had that, to be off on his own and kind of make his way in that aspect of it. But at least people that are looking for cost savings is to consider roommates so you could save even more.
Yeah, and schools do a good job of trying to pair you with a roommate. My two roommates only had two. They were amazing women. I mean, we were young though. We were on 18, 19, and my daughter's same situation. Her first roommate, they didn't really get along. A lot of, you got the whole boyfriend, girlfriend situation in the mix. It plays it adds a little testy drama to a situation. My daughter went to a different dorm each time just to try it out. And then she went to apartments on campus and then an apartment that was off of campus, but was still owned by UMBC or affiliated with UMBC. So she got to experience all of that. But I've heard people that actually went and bought a house or rent a house outside of campus so their kid could get roommates. And that's a huge cost savings. But I mean, because when you live on campus, I was about to say on base. When you live on campus, you're required to have a meal plan. Kind of like when you're a single on base, you got to have like be able to go to the mess hall or something. So that's extra cost. I
Let's
mean,
talk about food expenses. Oh my gosh. So, according to educationdata.org, they said that a college student spend about $78 billion a year on food. I couldn't believe that. I was like, there's no way. Is that for the world?
no, that's America, I'm sure. Because America, we're expensive.
$78 billion on food. And they said that the cost went up $10 billion a year. It's gone up $10 billion more. So I'm thinking, what has changed? Now it's so accessible to get food because of COVID. A lot of these delivery places are making a lot of money. Of course, there's that convenience. You're studying or you're on campus. You don't want to drive off. You don't have a vehicle. But yeah, that the meal plans, and I know that you had experience with the meal plans for your daughter, but I just couldn't believe the cost of these meal plans. I'm like, I would definitely be using that kitchen in the dorm room instead of eating out but of course there's got to be ways that you got to balance all of this.
Yeah, because not every dorm room, like her first 2 years, she didn't have access to a kitchen. They had, I think they had a community kitchen in the dorm, but not in her room. And then she had a full kitchen in her apartments, of course. But the meal plan, what I used to get mad of, and I got mad about this in high school, is you get these meal plans and then these kids choose to go eat off campus or they don't use all of their credits or their points. It's just like, wow, okay. And I used to get on Alana. I'm like, dude, you got to use this money because if you don't use it, you lose it. Literally.
It
Like you
doesn't
pay for
carry over.
it doesn't carry over. And I'm like, girl, so I would monitor that. And I hated doing that to her. I'm like, you still got money. You need to go over there like at the end of the year, at the end of each semester. I was like, you better go to the bookstore and use because she was able to use the credits there. You better go get some books or some supplies, some gear from UMBC. She would go get some shirts. I was like, I didn't care. Get a mug from Starbucks. You need it. You better use that credits because Alana, instead of going to, I call it a mess hall because we're military, but going to the dining facility, she would go to Starbucks, Chick-fil-A. There was this other breakfast place on campus. And the money didn't go as far there as it did to, so she would get a lot more food at the dining facility than if she went to Starbucks and only can get like a coffee and a bagel or something. So I used to get on her about that. She's like, but I don't have time to go over there. So I know I was a pain. And then when she moved into an apartment, you have a smaller meal plan so you can still get like your snacks and stuff, but then you have to start buying your own food. So she had a job throughout college, and I'm like, you're paying for your food. You're gonna have to go to the grocery store. And so she started learning like I'm gonna go to Aldi or all these like
Good.
Trader Joe's where it's cheaper, and she would get her budget and she made like $50. She would make use $50 a week to buy her food for the weekend. So she was really very budget conscious when it came to that. Thank
No,
God for that.
and I think that it's gonna be hard, especially like you mentioned, she didn't have a kitchen, and if you don't have that availability, have a good balance. I mean, if you can have some snacks or things in your dorm, or, of course, if you have a kitchen, even better, look up some recipes because, not every college student is gonna know how to cook. Some,
Yeah.
or you may have that roommate that does know how to cook. So maybe that's something that you could think about saying, hey, we'll buy the ingredients, everything you need if you cook for us something out like that. But also, if you're gonna definitely around a college campus, I noticed that that's like where all the good restaurants and all the fast food places. I mean, I'm here near Tampa, so we
Mhm.
have the University of Southern Florida. And so I see all of these great places because the VA hospital's over there too. So
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
like, wow, I mean, I can eat at all these places when I come over here, but I could see how enticing it is for someone young. And again, think of ways that you could save with those costs to have a good, healthy balance. Look for those student discounts. Look for 2-for-1 opportunity where you can go with your roommates. Sometimes there's those specials. So maybe having loyalty or rewards to the restaurants you like to eat at because $78 billion, that is definitely all going to like Uber Eats or something, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of money, but just finding ways because you're gonna wanna enjoy hanging out and eating with your friends, but definitely doing it in a wise consumer way. And, I didn't
Yeah.
know there was this website. It's called Unidays, and that's where you can go and, unidays.com, and then you
Mhm.
can get different discounts on food, tech, clothing. It's kind of like how the military, has that verify
Yeah.
that for discounts as well. The
Mhm.
same thing for students where they verify their
Oh,
enrollment and then it shows them all the places that have discounts. So it could be some of your places that you're already enjoying, but now you
yeah.
can go there and get discounts.
Yeah, my daughter knew about all those student discounts because she used it on Amazon, she used it on Spotify, like, she made sure she took advantage of her student discounts for that budgeting purposes. Yeah, but what about other unexpected expenses like health insurance, medical costs? Alana went on campus. During that time, she was under our military TRICARE plan,
Mhm.
but it don't matter what the medical issue was, but we got a $200 bill. That was like, where does this come from? We got insurance. But because she had to go on campus to get health care, they didn't take the insurance or whatever the situation may be. There's outside of that eating, which is a huge, so living and eating, which is a big cost for most of us. You got the health insurance, you got the Greek life, you got the transportation if they're out of state. I always tell people like, are you counting in the flights or the drive from Massachusetts to Florida? I mean, are you counting that? That's
The
a lot.
moving expenses,
The moving expenses,
yeah,
yeah,
I know, like, with the military, I think if you 500 miles from can't remember exactly what it was, but the
yeah.
military does give you the GI Bill. I'm sorry, the GI Bill gives you a stipend,
Mhm.
if you're in a rural area and you have to move closer to the college that you're attending. but maybe also looking for scholarships that help you with some of those costs,
Mhm.
not just always just tuition that scholarships cover. But no, it can get really expensive. I mean, that's why making a budget, creating a budget for all of those expenses. I think tuition is something a lot of people always focus on. And those
Mhm.
little expenses, like you mentioned, Greek life, being part of any fraternity or sorority. I had no idea. I've never been part of one, but that is a big expense for a lot of college
Huge.
students that are members of those fraternities. There's events, there's activities, gotta buy clothing, of course, attire to attend certain things, and, then you have to pay the entrance fees, just
Mhm.
like, sporting events as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
So it can add up. If you wanna enjoy your college years, I think those for a lot of people are their most memorable years, but just
Mhm.
being wise about how you're spending your money and having that budget and saying, "Okay," like you mentioned, transportation. If you don't have a vehicle, if
Yeah.
you're coming from out of state and, a vehicle wasn't something that was in your plan to purchase, you're gonna be depending on transportation, but a lot of campuses have buses. My
They
mom,
have
shout
buses,
out to
yeah.
Rutgers University in
Oh, yeah.
Jersey. She's a bus driver, so she
Nice.
is driving buses in the middle of the night, picking up students from labs. So there
Wow.
is that, transportation. I mean, yeah, sometimes you'll have to maybe stand out there, it might be cold,
Mhm.
but just be aware that if you are gonna use these share ride companies, make sure that you either maybe share with your fellow classmates, put it in your budget, have a certain
Mhm.
amount. If you know you're gonna, work staying late at the library, so have a
Mhm.
plan for that. Know the bus schedule on your
Yeah.
campus so you know what's available. Maybe with your classmate that does have a vehicle, working something out to split the cost of gas to help out. So those are things that to take into consideration and get some savings there.
That's what I did. I had a car and Alana had a car coming. Man, we're sounding really bougie and rich, and we're not. But I had a car in my first years of being on campus. Alana had it the whole 4 years. I used to be like, back in the day, gas was 99 cents a gallon, y'all. So like, and I was like,
So we're
y'all,
splitting it. You
oh
paying
no, you was better.
50%?
You exactly, man. I was
No,
like, all
that's
I had was
smart.
$5 to try to fill up, or if you halfway, my
Mhm.
little red neon I had back in the day. And so, and Alana did the same thing. I'd be like, girl, if you taking your friends somewhere, like she would take them to the grocery store or something. I'm like, you better get some money for that gas, girl.
Mhm.
But then all the other expenses, you got to still make sure your tires are good, your oil changes,
Insurance.
like insurance. Like there's so many, like you out here in these streets living like a real full adult life on campus. Like you got to make sure tuition, the housing, the food, the car, the books and supplies, the Greek life, the insurance, the health insurance. Oh my Lord.
It's
It's a
like a
lot.
preview,
It's a
really,
preview,
but it's
yeah.
almost like real life already, you're
Yeah.
really getting a way to being a good steward, just like you said, that's what we wanna do. We wanna be good stewards of God's money, the money that He's
Amen.
entrusted us with, having that responsibility, to whom much is given, much
Much is
is
required,
expected, yeah,
expect
so
yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's something that I think in the end, we wanna make sure that we're using all the gifts that we're being blessed with, and using it wisely and using it responsibly
Mm.
because, it all belongs to him. We're just here to manage it.
We're just here to manage it, y'all. I mean, that's what Yahweh's money about, that crossroads of religion and money. God gives it to us to manage and be responsible. And that includes college. And when you have kids, you get married, when you're out in this work world, wherever you're at, you need to be responsible with God's money. So, wow, this is great. I'm sure a lot of people didn't realize all of the extra expenses to go into college because a lot of people don't talk about this. They're always focused on the tuition, which is the biggest expense, and we should be talking about that. But sometimes, if you add all the extra expenses, it's probably just as much, if not more, as tuition.
Yeah, that's
It's
crazy, and
it's
and I would
crazy.
love to hear from listeners other expenses that maybe we're not even thinking
Yeah.
about or covering because and how were you able to save? So, I
Yeah.
definitely wanna hear from our listeners and ask, what other expenses are there? Those little expenses that, you don't think about, and once you're there, you're like, "Oh, okay," you
I
know?
know,
Yeah.
yeah. Drop it in our, social media platforms, or you can send us an email at Yahweh at Crusaders, the number 4 change.org. We would love to hear that. So, any last thoughts, Adriana? First of all, I have to stop because, girl, where you been all my life? This was great. I know we always had great conversations offline, and I know you feel a certain way about being out front, but you're amazing. That was amazing. I love this conversation. Any last thoughts?
Just remember those little expenses. Having a budget is essential. Being a good steward means you're being intentional. So, managing your money in the best way that not only is going to help alleviate so much, help you save, help you stay out of debt if you can help it, but also help you be generous. Because at the
Yeah.
end, that's going to be such an important thing. That's God's intent for us to have generosity with our money and be
Hmm.
able to bless others. Just definitely, remembering what being a good steward is. And of course, again, this sets you up for the future. It's going to help
Yes.
you because if you can manage now, you're going to be able to do so much better when you're definitely growing a family. Now you have a
Hmm.
mortgage or a home,
Hmm.
it's going to set you up for success.
That's so true. And then try to stay away from the debt, y'all, the credit cards and all that, because that could
Tell
just
it.
lead to even more
Tell it.
issues. And I was there. I got all those credit cards in college and it was like, oh my God, now I got to pay this debt off after I had a baby and all that good stuff. But that's for another episode. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Adriana, for your beautiful just spirit and everything you do for us and beyond. And we'll see you soon, guys. A big thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you found today's chat about the intersection of religion and money insightful. We would love to hear your feedback. Hit that subscribe button or follow the podcast, and please feel free to leave us a review. For the latest Yahweh's Money content, visit us at crusaders4change.org or find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Until next time, stay financially fit and spiritually inspired. And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way.